saying it's not what you know, but who you know. Sometimes it's not who you know now, but who you're going to meet that makes the difference. Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah. Day number 5, the Torah portion, Vayishev, meaning and he dwelt. As you read the end of chapter number 39 of the book of Genesis or Bereshit, you find that Joseph has been unjustly and wrongly accused by a scorned woman. Potiphar's wife has set her sights on Joseph to no avail. Joseph has said no. He now stands accused of a crime that he did not commit. And Potiphar puts him in prison. I find it interesting that when you read in chapter 39, verse number 1, that it references Potiphar as the captain of the guard. Then it also says in chapter 40 and verse 3 that Pharaoh puts some prisoners in confinement in the house of the captain of the guard. Is this Potiphar that they're talking about? If so, then Potiphar has Joseph in prison in a place where he is himself in charge. What's going on here? Here's my line of thinking. When we read over in chapter number 39, it says in verse number 19, "And it came to be when his master heard the words which his wife spoke to him, saying, Your servant did to me according to these words, that his displeasure burned." As we read that, we might easily surmise then that his anger has burnt against Joseph. There's another way of looking at this. And that is that Potiphar knows his wife, and he knows that she likes to play the field and that she is a seductress. And he knows Joseph and knows that Joseph would have said no, that his anger is burning not so much against Joseph, but against his wife. And he basically puts Joseph in protective custody. That is, in the house where he is the guard and the one who can keep him. Now, Hasidic thought says this, and I found this interesting, that when the charge was levied against Joseph, that the whole area of Mitzrayim was abuzz with this latest scandal. And that is basically that Potiphar's wife is up to her old tricks and she has tried to seduce another servant. And he has said no. Or else Joseph's in jail. Joseph's in jail. Joseph's in jail. Well, however, the scandal played out in that day, that Yah allowed a different scandal to take over the news headlines, and that is that the chief baker and chief cupbearer of Pharaoh have displeased him enough that he's had them arrested and placed in the same jail. No one's talking about the old news of Joseph and Potiphar's wife. Now everyone's talking about the cupbearer and the baker. Make no mistake about it, Yah knows how to orchestrate even carnal or earthly events to suit his will and to bring about his purposes. So Joseph has been elevated in the jail to where he is the chief prisoner. Not a great job, but it's better than being the lowest prisoner. And we find then that Pharaoh's top servants, his baker and his cupbearer, have displeased him, and now they're in jail. You read chapter 40, you find then that they each have a dream and they're troubled by it. Joseph takes time to notice people that in a different circumstance would have never paid any attention to Joseph. Joseph sees that their faces are falling and distraught, and he asks what's going on. They relate to him their dreams, and he gives to them their interpretation. You never know where the people that you meet that might fancy themselves better than you, richer than you, better established, higher on the social ladder and rung of things, that will look down on you and never really pay any attention to you, that if they're in need and you offer to them some sense of assistance, some sense of help, encouragement, even if it's just a casual opening of the door or, hey, how you doing? You never know where that's going to be a key in your hand or in the hand of Yah that later on is going to open the door and make a way for you where otherwise it would not have come to pass. In short, do not pass up opportunities to serve others. In doing so, you never know how things are going to turn out. It may be that they're not really anybody important or of any position or ability at the moment, but circumstances for them could change. And then they will have a reason to call you to remembrance and say, now I want to do something good for that one. Yeshua taught us about serving unrighteous mammon, making friends of those that may not be among the elite and righteous. But you just never know where those seeds are going to bear fruit in such a way as to prosper you or open opportunity for you. Now, as we continue to read in chapter number 40, Joseph says, after he's interpreted things, in verse 14, but remember me when it is well with you, and please show loving commitment to me, and mention me to Pharaoh, and get me out of this house. For truly I was stolen away from the land of the Hebrews, and I have also done nothing or naught that they should put me in the dungeon. Now, when the cupbearer was restored, he forgot all about Joseph. It's going to come back some 2 years down the road. But here's something that we need to keep in mind. As we read the story of Joseph, you and I would be counted among those that are currently of the house of Joseph. Now, we may not have a direct lineage to anything Hebraic or Jewish or any of that sort, but spiritually, as we have been grafted in, we are Am Israel. In particular, we are Am Israel in exile. That speaks of the house of Israel, the house of Joseph, Ephraim, all synonymous terms. That understanding should give us importance in reading the life of Joseph because it prophetically, in many cases, speaks to where we are and what's going on with us. That being the case, understand that as Joseph served, he was given an opportunity for release later on because of that service. But also understand that as he is promoting himself, it really doesn't do him any good at the moment. There are those that are of the house of Joseph that they try to over-promote themselves. And by that, let me just give you this example. While we may have returned to the feast days, to Hamoedim, and we may have restored Shabbat to our home and our families, and while we may have changed our diet and we're studying the Torah and we're making headway, I have over the years known those then that have compromised themselves or done what they thought was necessary, even deceptively, to try to get to the land of Israel, thinking, I want to go live in the land of Israel. That's a wonderful ambition, and I understand the love for the Jewish people and the desire to be among them. Sometimes, however, there are those that have just had a fancy, imaginative understanding that if I can get to the land of Israel, things will spiritually be better for me. Let me ask you some important questions. Do you speak Hebrew fluently enough to converse with people in Israel? Do you have a job there? Do you have a place to live? Do you have vital context that can help you get established in the land? Do you understand their history? Do you appreciate and understand their culture? Without these things, you don't belong in the land of Israel, and to promote yourself there is out of time and out of place, just as it was for Joseph. Just a thought. Shabbat shalom to you, to your family, and to all who belong with you. May you find the presence and the reality of Yeshua as you meet in his presence. Until next week, shalom.